It's a get rich for sure. There's a lot of BS get rich quick schemes out there. And I'm telling you, commercial real estate, if you're in the game long enough, it is a get rich for sure game if you stay in it long enough. So stay in it long enough, make enough phone calls, hang around with people like Ty and myself, and it's going to be really, really hard to not make money. We can solve all problems, baby.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-5243. Yep. 205-964-5243. You know.
Hello, guys. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and today I have an amazing guest here that I only discovered less than a week ago, and his content on YouTube is like nothing I've ever seen, and I think I'm very fortunate, and now you all will be very fortunate to even know this man exists. So I have my guy, Henry.
Eisenstein.
If you ever want to know how to cold call, this is the guy you need to watch. Because he has 2-hour segments where he's just doing cold call after cold call. And I personally find it entertaining because I know how difficult it is. He's dealing in a world of commercial real estate where the checks are so much bigger. So if you're out there like selling cars or something like that, and you make a decent living there, but one of these deals could be your entire salary. If you have that skill, there's no way you shouldn't be doing this. But anyway, what's going on, Henry?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ty. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for the kind words.
No problem at all, man. So what I like to do is just try to get some backstory. I'm sure you weren't born doing commercial real estate, so you can give us an idea like pre-real estate, just period, even before commercial.
Yeah, sure. I actually was the quiet kid in the back of the room growing up. I struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts growing up. Didn't really ever plan on going to college. I come from a Jewish family, so I was really the black sheep for quite some time. Spent a lot of time really just playing video games. I didn't know why I liked video games so much until I was older, but it was because people judge you based on your results, not based off of who you are, what you look like. And I was bullied a lot in school, so it allowed me to be somebody different. And that's why I love business so much, because in business, people treat you based off your results. So I was the quiet kid in the back of the room, hated, I didn't want to go to college, and was finally forced to get a job by the time I was 18 or so. Finally had a mentor for the very first time in my life. This guy who owned a kids party place called Pump It Up. They owned a few locations, and it was the first time in my life I ever had somebody believe in me, and it changed my life, man. And it was just somebody who goes, I believe in you. I see something bigger, something more possible for your life, which I had never experienced before growing up. And within 2 years, I was managing 2 locations, managed 40 employees, had hit kind of the ceiling at these franchises. And it was interesting. I saw how much money the owner was making, and I was like, wait a second, like I'm doing 100 hours a week working, and you're making a lot more money than me. And I didn't understand the difference. And I realized I had hit my proverbial ceiling here. And then a friend of mine randomly, when I was 20 years old, was like, hey, why don't we get our real estate licenses? We found out this random kid that we both knew had made like 20 grand in a month.
Boom. Now I got to share 2 opportunities with you. If you want to skip houses and go straight to commercial real estate, text the word JUMP to 205-964-5243. And if you want to build a list of pre-foreclosures nationwide, text the word overdue to 205-964-5243. Now back to the video.
Then we found out he only did that because he sold his mom's house and helped her buy a house. But hey, I mean, however you do it, you do it.
Yeah, it was possible.
It was possible. But I was like, hey, I work 100 freaking hours a week, and this guy made half my salary in 1 month. And I was like, there's something to this game. So I got in the industry when I was 20 years old. I'm 29 now. And the first 12 months, I lost everything. I was like, I thought I made the worst decision ever. I got a mentor, and she was just terrible. She was in the REO business. So man, when I tell you, my first freaking 12 months in the industry was me evicting people from their houses. Okay. 20-year-old little kid evicting people from their houses. That's how I spent the first 12 months in real estate. And I didn't make any money until like my 12th month when I finally left her and I started selling houses on my own. And 2 years into it, I finally gave up. I was like, I freaking hate this industry. This industry sucks. I don't make any money. I've been lied to. It's bullshit. And I went to a Tony Robbins event, and man, oh man, it changed my life. He gave me, he gave me the guidance I feel like I finally needed, gave me more belief, more persistence, more dedication dedication to my vision than I've ever experienced before. I put everything on credit cards. I must have been $70,000 in credit card debt, 550 credit score. And my coach said one thing, man, that changed my life forever, which was because I started all these different businesses after real estate that all went absolutely nowhere. But I did have serial entrepreneur in my Instagram handle, so that helped. My coach said to me, if you focus on one thing for a decade, it's going to be really hard for you not to be successful. And that was about 8 years ago, my man. And I've been on this journey for quite some time. It's been absolutely life-changing.
So at that point, once you went through, I guess, that mental change, did you just go back to residential real estate or?
Yeah. So first few years, I went back to residential real estate. And with about 3 years, I was doing over 100 transactions a year, built up a decent team, and then transitioned into commercial afterwards.
Was that your intent to go to commercial, or just conversation with someone or an experience or something from a listing that may have been, like sometimes you know that they're a residential agent, but they have a commercial listing, maybe because one of their previous clients just say, this is the only person that I know that's in real estate, and I'm going to let you sell my daddy's 8-unit apartment building that he left to me.
Yeah. So funny enough, in the residential side, I was very heavily focused on investment sales. So I would find off-market deals. I worked with a bunch of wholesalers, had a lot of great connections with flippers. I mean, that was a big part of my life. Got my first investment property that way. Basically grew up in the investment side of real estate. And then as my investor partners kind of grew up in the industry and started buying and being a part of bigger transactions, so did I.
Okay. So just association more so with the clients that you were already feeding deals to.
Yep.
Okay. So during that time frame, you knew what wholesaling was. You're obviously fixing, flipping, and on the rental side of it, when did you do your first wholesale deal? You took your realtor's hat off or your agent's hat off and say, no, I can make more money if I just tie this up and I already have a buyer for it. Boom.
When did I do my first wholesale deal? That's a good question. I probably would say something like 6 or 7 years ago, because I was working with a bunch of wholesalers, helping them scale their businesses. When the owner wanted too much money, they would give me the deal and listing it. And then on occasion, I already had a buyer, so we would split the wholesale fees. But one of my first, quote, wholesale deals that I did on my own was a little baby single family house. And I think I made like 35 grand on the wholesale.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. All right. Yeah. Light bulb went off at that point. So as you said, you sort of grew up in the commercial world because that's where your clients ended up, started wanting to do deals and I guess, try to get you involved in, using your skills. But when did the first commercial situation like that happen as far as a wholesale deal?
Yeah. So I honestly did my first commercial deal 2 years ago because I was always as a broker. It was just so much easier for me to do it as a broker for the years before. And the only reason why I ended up doing a wholesale deal because the spread was stupid. And I made 50% of it just because I needed some support doing it was like a $2.5 million deal. I think we made 150,000, which in retrospect, we should have just brokered it because that's what I do today. Unless the spread is like 10 to 20% or something, which is rare. Yeah. We'll just broker it for 6 points and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah, I was involved in a self-storage deal back in July and the agent got 10% on a $2 million deal. And I automatically assumed because of the price points that 3 and 4 and 5 and 6% didn't exist in that world, right? Mm-hmm. As far as on the broker agent side of it. And so my partner on the deal on that, when he hit me up that morning, he said, man, you're not going to believe how much this agent is about to make on this deal. But the seller paid it all. And I said, what, 60, 70? In my mind, I had maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. He said, she's getting 10% of 2 million? He said, yes, I'm looking at the HUD right now.
And that's what kind of blows my mind a lot of the times, which is like people get really weird about commissions. Yeah. And I'm like, just ask. You put whatever you want on the contract, and if they sign it, they sign it. Yeah. And it's like, it's not up to you to say no before it. Just present it.
I guess who was the happiest person at the closing?
I believe it. That's right.
But anyway, so that's one of the things I didn't know. I didn't know that commercial brokers still would be able to get 3%, 4, 5, 6 on deals. So now wholesaling won't make as much sense. And now you don't have to jump through all the hoops that a wholesaler would have to jump through to try to make the deal work. But like you say, sometimes the opportunity is going to present itself. It just works out. All right. So now, guys, once you start consuming Henry's content, you'll see that most of it is catered toward, just trying to encourage and giving commercial real estate brokers different ways on both sides of the seller and buyer side of it. And what you'll see is his cold calling skills. Was that developed or just got into this? It was just natural for you. Is that something you had to develop?
Definitely wasn't natural off the bat, my friend. I was terrified. It's funny. So my first mentor that I had in the residential side almost 10 years ago, she was the first one to introduce cold calling to me, okay, on the residential side. And I was freaking terrified, dude. I was like, I will do anything on planet Earth. Please don't make me make cold calls. I will do anything else. I told her, and this is real, I told her I would open up a kiosk at the mall. I would rather do that and start conversations about real estate than do cold calling.
Yeah.
And which is, I think, just super stupid looking back, but I was terrified. And guess what? Anything you try that's new and different might be scary at first. And the one thing I got out of that relationship with that first mentor, because it did not go well at all, the only thing that really was positive about it was she goes, just go for no. Get 10 no's a day. And then it went from 10 no's a day to 20, the 30, 50.
Wow.
Now made over 1 million cold calls in my career. So quite a number of no's later, it kind of pays off.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking for it. Expect the no's. I've explained it over the years. If you talk to 100 people, if you can get one or two of them to say, yes, you've done very well. So with commercial, you have all the different, property types, asset classes, right? And I've heard a number of people say that it's difficult to focus on more than one, maybe two different property types. Because, you have multifamily, retail, industrial, which could include warehouses, of course, office space. You got the single tenant, self-storage. Maybe I'm missing a couple more, but they advise people to try to focus on one or two, mainly probably one. But I heard you say, just watching, consuming enough of your content over the last couple of days, is that you really just like where a lot of buyers are. So if that's, hospitality, which motel, hotels, or industrial, which is probably one of the hotter property types now. And then, of course, always multifamily. So for you, it doesn't matter. You understand it. You can get a lot of buyers for it. You're just looking for the opportunity. Am I wrong in my thinking there?
Yeah. So my philosophy is that if you find a really, really good deal, you'll be able to sell it. However, I do want to stress that if you're brand new to the industry, trying to prospect several different asset classes or asset class types is going to be fairly difficult because you won't know what questions to ask per se in order to underwrite the property. What I do believe is very important is who you prospect for, right? Prospecting for a purpose, with a purpose. Unlike traditional wholesaling, where you lock up a deal, right? A single family house, and everyone's buying the same asset, right? I mean, single family house is a single family house. I don't care how big, how small, how many bedrooms, how many, whatever, right? It's the same asset class. And you know that you're going to blast it out to a bunch of buyers. Commercial real estate is similar. If you have a buyer or buyers that are looking for a specific asset class, I would probably prospect for that asset class first, right? And don't get so, convoluted with how many different asset classes you're going to be prospecting for right off the bat, right? If you got a guy who loves, 5 to 20 unit apartment buildings in a certain county, I would call every single one of those properties first. And then as you prospect more people, you come across more buyers, and the right buyers will come along who are looking for X type of product. And then you can start prospecting for that. But I would definitely not just say I'm going to prospect my entire state, every asset class, every commercial property right off the bat, because you're probably not going to be able to sell much because you don't have any buyers that you're specifically looking for.
Okay, so you would strongly recommend building those relationships with some buyers first, or it might be just a buyer. And with that being said, I know what we do. We spend 98% of our energy dealing with both sides of sellers and buyers with self-storage, right? And so we have the brokers that we target, then we have just straight to the buyer that we target. But I guess they do what I say, but I prefer to go through the brokers because normally the broker may have more than one person that wants to buy self-storage or whatever. But someone just starting out, what do you recommend on how to accomplish that? Because I know there are a lot of tools out there, but just keep in mind, someone may be starting out, they can't afford Reonomy or CoStar or Crexi or any of those tools.
Yeah, so let's break it down for seller and buyer. If you're looking for buyers, number one, I would urge you to understand that the buyer side of the commercial real estate world, there's typically, if someone owns a commercial property, like if someone owns one self-storage facility and it's not a mom and pop, they typically own several, right? I mean, most people own several commercial properties, right? If that's their business, it's very common for somebody to own several. And if they own several, it means they typically buy several, right? If you're calling up somebody, they own one commercial property, that's going to be a really good seller, but they're not going to be a really good buyer because the odds of them buying another is pretty rare, right? So just understand when it comes to the buyer side, and I actually just did a video on this of how to find buyers specifically. A lot of the buyers that you will come across will come from prospecting for sellers, right? And I'm a huge advocate of prospecting for sellers first. But if you're just looking for buyers, I would say call up a bunch of local brokers, call up, Ty, call up myself, depending on the markets that you're in, and say, hey, what are you specifically looking for, Mr. Investor? Get a really clear idea of how many properties they're looking to buy, what's their criteria. I just spoke to a guy who's looking for, retail centers between $2 and $20 million down here in South Florida. I'm here in Miami right now. And it's like, okay, cool. I want to get as much criteria as possible from this person so that when I prospect for it, I know if it's it or it isn't it. Because I don't want to just prospect for something and then hope and pray they like it. It's like giving them food and you don't know if they're going to actually enjoy it, right? It's really stupid. Now, if On the seller side, and you're saying if you do not have Reonomy, you do not have CoStar, you don't have all these other softwares, I'm a big fan of going to events, right? I'm a big fan of driving for dollars. I'm a big fan of doing the hard work first, right? You can network. And again, if you're brand new in the industry, maybe you're going to work on a team and the team will give you a lead list for free, right? And work on a team for a year or two. It's okay, right? Work on a team, get a lead list, and pound the freaking phones, right? There's a lot of ways that you can do it for free on either end of that spectrum.
All right. So you're saying that you recommend targeting sellers first and you make a transition them into a buyer. You know, they give you a price or not interested in selling. Because I listened to enough of your cold calling and it's just so smooth, guys. Once you start hearing this stuff, you're going to be amazed. Like some of the objections that he's overcoming, how, people are nasty because you never know when you cold call someone. That's why it's called cold calling. The wife might have just told him, I don't want you anymore. You know what I'm saying? So you don't never know. So it's a lot of times about timing. And also with cold calling, I know you don't worry about this, but especially in the commercial world, I don't think it's as intense as residential, is that 3 people called me this week about this property or whatever. It's all about timing. Just life is crazy. In 3 days, my whole world could be changed where, Monday, I did not want to sell this property, but today I need to sell this property. So you just have to put your number at bat in and it'll just play out. The numbers to play out. What you personally do is you're going to have your target markets, but because of the exposure on YouTube, I'm sure you're getting leads from all over the country now. But when you're putting your energy into it, what markets are you mainly targeting? What would you recommend?
I mean, look, I'm licensed in New Jersey. That's my bread and butter. That's my primary market. It's where I focus. Like if you have a great deal in New Jersey, I can sell it tomorrow. I have a guy who wants it. I have a lot of buyers who are very seasoned, very qualified. Like I run New Jersey. It's like my backyard. I now moved to South Beach. I love it here. Slowly growing a team out here, and we're starting to prospect for Florida. I've been doing that for 4, 5, 6 months or so, and slowly building it out over here. But for right now, those are the 2 markets that I target with my time, because I look at it like I want to prospect areas in which I'm going to have the highest return, right? And I would probably not have the highest return if I randomly called Kentucky, right? Or, Kansas or something like that. I'm not going to have a high return because I don't have somebody who wants to buy in Kansas, right? Like it doesn't make sense. I want to prospect where my buyers are. So Jersey for right now is that market. And obviously because of YouTube, we're getting sent a lot of deals from all over the country. And, for the right deals, we're able to make something happen. And for most of it, it doesn't fit the mold.
All right. So now you're in Florida. Are you going to try to duplicate the same? Well, you say you're building a team, so I know that's the end game. But mainly, I guess, because you're in South Florida, which seems like it's just a different state in itself, it's easier for you to focus on there, even though you're not as entrenched there as you are in New Jersey.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, 90+% of my efforts is New Jersey. Like if I'm going to prospect a lead list, I'm calling New Jersey personally. Okay. And I have a number of agents that are on my team that are in Jersey, and I have a number of agents now that are in Florida. And obviously, just because I'm here, it's just my new market that we're prospecting. And we're prospecting the whole state of Florida already. But it's again where our buyers are. If our buyers are looking for X product, then we're going to prospect for X product, right? Like we're following the same thing that I'm talking about.
All right. So I know this is going to, they probably say, why are you ain't asking this question, Tyrone? Well, what makes a good commercial real estate deal? Now I know better. Just that's too broad. We'll just use industrial. All right. And whenever you're trying to figure out if you have a deal or not, you have to understand what someone is willing to pay. And generally speaking, it's not like residential where you just got comps to go by. Well, they'll pay this. But I guess you do have some data depending on the tool, depending on where it is, how much activity, that you can get some idea of what buyers are willing to pay, what people are willing to lease for, and you can sort of backdoor it from there to underwrite a deal. If you can just go through that process.
Yeah, so I think like an investor first, right? Like I am a broker. I do broker a lot of deals, but we think like investors first. So when I'm prospecting and our sales script is we are looking to buy property, like myself, I am looking to buy property. And when we get a lead, we get someone who said that they're possibly interested in buying a property. I'm going to get all the criteria I possibly can from somebody over the phone. And they're going to give me all the financials, all the details that I possibly ask for. If you go on my YouTube channel, you literally see my script is there. It is free. You can download it. It's exactly what I say on all my sales calls. Now, once I get all their contact information, not only that, but all the financials and details about the property, I'll underwrite it quickly and I'll make an offer to buy it myself, right? As if I was going to be the investor. I'm typically looking for a 25+% IRR very conservatively. If it pencils at a 25% IRR within the first 3 to 4 years, that's a deal that I want to raise money for and buy myself.
Before we go any further, internal rate of return. Explain that in layman terms.
Okay. A best way that I can explain it, or that it's been explained to me, is that it's the speed in which you return capital, which basically just means if I invest $100,000 and you're going to return return that capital. Let's just say I'm going to make $100,000 back. If you make $100,000, let's just say you invest in a deal. Okay. You invest 100 grand into a deal and I make $100,000 back. Now it's about at what speed I return that 100 grand. If you return it in 12 months to me, that's 100% return on investment. That's pretty damn good. Okay. But if it takes 10 years for you to return that $100,000, same 100 grand, but it takes 10 years instead of 12 months, right? It's a much different internal rate of return. I mean, look, it's the rule of 70. It's actually less than 10%. But my point is that it's the speed in which you return my capital.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You get 100 grand over 3 years, it's a 33% a year return. Anyways, it's the speed in which you return it. So I'm looking for a 25% minimum IRR when I'm looking at a deal, internal rate of return.
Well,
now,
4 years?
Yeah, 3 to 5 year period of time.
All right.
Okay. Now, I want to stress this. I specifically look for value add deals. I'm not trying to buy something at Class A that's cash flow and nothing, right? And I'm looking for something that cash flows day one and something that I can drastically increase the value of the property over time. That is what I specifically look for. And I have found that obviously a lot of people are looking for the same thing, something where you're going to have a lot of forced appreciation because you can increase the value of the property through renting out the property for higher prices, renovating the property, you name it. So for us, when it comes to a really good, call it industrial deal, I'm looking for something where day one, I'm getting a very, very good price per square foot in retrospect to the market, right? If the market, like in New Jersey, is very commonly, at least in northern New Jersey, is around $200 a square foot. So if I'm getting something at $100 a square foot as an example, I'm very happy, right? I'm getting it at a good price per square foot. Even if hypothetically I'm only cash flowing a little bit, but I want to be cash flowing day one. I want to make sure I'm not losing money day one, but I'm buying it at a good price per square foot. I'm cash flowing day one. And number three is that I need to have a major value add component, which is hopefully a large part of it is vacant or it's under rented, right? Where I know that I can increase the value over time. And eventually I can sell it to somebody else at 150, 160 a foot, 170, 180, $200 a foot, depending on the location, and still make some good money.
All right. Now that's with industrial warehousing. I know you like multifamily also. Run through the numbers on that, if you will.
Yeah. So for multifamily, we look for, again, instead of good price per square foot, we look for a great price per unit, where if I know the market value in X area is $150,000 per unit or $200,000 a unit, I want it for 60 cents on the dollar. I want it for $100,000 a unit or 125, 130 a unit. That's right, respectively. So number one, I want a very, very good price per unit. Number two, again, I want to cash flow day one, right? I want to make sure I'm not losing money on that deal. And number three, I need to have a very good value add component. Like units are vacant. I can renovate the units and I can get more money, right? I also want to stress, because New Jersey is very well known for rent control. I want to make sure I'm not buying in a rent controlled market, right? Where, again, because things are really under rented, but there's rent control, you're screwed, right? Like it doesn't really matter that it's under rented. It's going to be under rented for a very, very long time. So keeping those factors in mind is going to make sure that you never lose money in real estate.
Okay. So I know we're talking about multifamily. We're talking about industrial. What are the other asset classes you like to deal with, property types you like?
Retail. We do a lot of retail as well, which again, you're going to look at a really good price per square foot. The other two are the same. Besides that, I really don't do a ton of development, but on occasion we do some land development deals where again, you're going to still want to get a very, very good price per unit to be developed, or price per approval per unit, or price per square foot approved. Other than that, I really don't do a lot of hospitality deals. It's really just not something that we come across too often. Office, I really don't come across a lot of very, very good office deals unless I'm looking at a conversion. But yeah, industrial, multifamily, and retail is my main focus.
Any single tenant stuff like former CVS's or Rite Aids or Walgreens, any of that kind of stuff?
So actually, I want to stress also, I love self-storage, right? I'm a big self-storage guy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It was Nick after this here, but
yeah.
I haven't heard you in all the calls. I hadn't heard any of the self-storage stuff. So
we're having a tough time getting a hold of some owners in our area, but we're working on a couple self-storage.
Okay, so you're still focused on New Jersey. Okay, all right, I got you. Okay, just to give context, I've given opportunity to my audience, just gave them everything they needed to build a list of self-storage owners pretty much anywhere in the country, and then what to say, right? Yep. And so they would basically, if they want to partner with us, they send the deal over to us and we analyze, underwrite, which sometimes very difficult to do because we can't get enough information from the owner, a lot of mom and pop situations, but still opportunities. And so if you're trying to call in a metro area of any sort, decent size, you're going to get a lot of managers, right? That's expected. Exactly. The smaller the town, the number that's on the building that's listed on Google,
that's the owner picks up
the phone. It goes to the owner. So that's, from about 7 months of doing this, that's what we've experienced a lot of or whatever. But real quick before we go to self-storage, sure. On the single tenant stuff, do you target that at all?
So what we have found is that a lot of the single tenant stuff, either they want an absolute
retail. I'm talking retail.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We come across a lot of people who have Rite Aids and Walgreens and, you name it, right? CVS or any other single tenant stuff. We come across it on occasion, but these people still want 5 caps, right? It makes absolutely no sense. And I'm just not interested in wasting my time trying to sell a 5 cap deal in this type of economy. So it's not something that we specifically prospect, but it does come up on occasion. But when it comes to other single tenant stuff like industrial, we try to structure very lucrative leasebacks, right? So that does come up on occasion.
Okay. All right. So let's get into self-storage. So New
Let's do
Jersey, if we find a self-storage opportunity in New Jersey,
We
you
can
will
sell it
be able to
tomorrow.
liquidate it.
I can sell it tomorrow.
All right. What's the buy box?
Okay. Ideally, the bigger the better. Like, small little mom and pop locations, we can do them. I've sold a number of them. I have people for those smaller locations, but, a member of one of my teams, his father-in-law works for Prime. So, again, if you come across anything across the nation that typically is like 90,000, 100,000 square feet minimum, we could put it in front of Prime and see if they want to take a look at it. But in regards to New Jersey, literally just about any facility that has some decent cash flow and decent value add components, we want to take a look at it. We'll look at just about anything.
Have you dealt with anything? I hear on the East Coast, if you can find a really good location for truck parking, like semi-truck parking, that you can really hit a home run on what they're willing to pay because of the lack of space up there, just in general.
Based on location, yes.
Yeah, based on location, of course. Okay, so as far as someone that wants to take on, that may be a residential agent right now, just to get on that side of it, and they want to transition over to commercial, could you share your thoughts on that? I've already heard what you're going to say, but, it's very interesting on your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so let me give you some perspective. I went from selling 100 single-family homes a year, working 100-hour work weeks plus, dealing with all these ridiculous homeowners, very emotional processes, very large team, heavy salary, to the commercial world where I don't work weekends because I choose not to. Very open schedule because, again, we work Monday through Friday, and most of the time if they're not going to answer the phone after 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Like most investors are just not going to do that. These big time dimes don't care, these big time investors. But my average commission check has more than almost 10x'd my average commission check. The amount of deals that I do is still in the double digit range. I haven't hit triple digit range, but maybe one day. We do a good volume. Our commission check on average has 10x'd. And the deals are it's just like, I'm a math guy. I'm a huge math guy. So it just made sense for me to get into this world. My investors graduated into larger stuff. I graduated into larger stuff. So if you're thinking that if you're a residential person, residential realtor, and you're looking to get into the commercial side, I coach this all the time. Like, that transitional process is really key, because what you don't want to do is go cold turkey and you're like, oh, well, the shiny object syndrome in commercial real estate sounds really, really good. You know how long it takes to close some commercial deals? Holy shit. It takes a long time, man, right? It just takes forever.
The first self-storage deal I did, we went from September of one year to May of the next year before we got paid.
That's what I'm saying, right? Before you get paid, exactly. So most people
and it was only because the survey, the county had to approve it.
SBA.
Yeah. And then they had to start the process back over again, But, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But
no, you're good. You're good. But yeah, so that transitional process is really key, because you don't want to stop the cash flow. And if you're making money from residential, continue working residential. And one day a week you start with, you prospect commercial. And then once you close a commercial deal and you get a nice paycheck, then you start doing 2 days. And then it's 3 days. And then it's 4 and 1. And then all of a sudden now you're doing 5 days a week and you're making healthy money again, right? So it's just you want to do a gradual transition into the commercial real estate world. It's what worked for me and what has worked for many.
If someone's in sales, I mentioned early, like your automobile salesman or even pharmaceutical sales, which can make really good money. How strongly, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend them looking into going into commercial real estate to leverage those skills?
Sure. So my running joke when it comes to commercial real estate is that I don't care if you sell it, but you better buy it, right? So it's like, maybe being a licensed agent isn't for you because you are, quote, making 200, 300, 500 grand a year at your job already, or whatever you're making. I'm not just saying that you need to be a broker and sell it, but you sure as heck should put your money into it, right? So in any way, shape, and form, you should be a part of this industry regardless, because it will change your life forever. So I also just love this industry. Like, I'm so obsessed with this industry. I'm 29 now. I'm excited to be a part of it till I'm 70, right? I'm going to be on a 50-year run from 20 to 70 years old in this commercial real estate world. I'm obsessed with it. I want to be becoming the number one guy in the country. I want to build something special with this. And what I have found is that I want to be an investor. Like, that's my main gig, right? I want to buy the best deals possible. It's like, if I want to buy the best deals possible, why on planet Earth wouldn't I be a broker, right? It's like, it's my job to find great deals, and I just buy the best stuff and then I sell the rest.
Yeah, I just did a YouTube short, is that a real estate license should only be a tool used for your investments. When it doesn't fit your buy box as an investment, then it becomes a listing or what a potential listing. Exactly. Or whatever. You should have the investor hat on first. At least that's my 2 cents on it.
I agree with you.
Wow, man. So a lot of good information, Henry, man. I really encourage everyone to go out and start to consume your content. What's out there for someone that, number one, wants to get involved with you? If they want to send you some deals, they want your training, what are the options out there? Because I know I'm I'm going to leverage some of it, so what are their options out there?
We do a couple different things. Number one, similar to you, if you come across any deals nationwide, any type of deals, I mean, obviously if it's New Jersey or Florida, I could basically sell it tomorrow, but anywhere nationwide, and by the way, you can reach out to us for any support, any questions whatsoever at info@henryeisenstein.com. You just email us. We'll make sure we take good care of you in any way, shape, and form possible. Also, it started off as a passion project. We now do a lot of coaching for commercial agents and investors who want to start scaling their business, want to, maybe earn their first 6 figures or maybe the first 7 figures in the business. We basically teach you how to not only prospect for the deals, how to underwrite the deals, how to find the buyers, how to find the sellers, the whole 9 yards, help you build a business around it. So if you need any support there, we can also support you in that aspect.
Okay. One last thing, you'll have guys that are, I guess they may have residential rental portfolios, or they may be high level fix and flippers, but are terrified of commercial. How would you have that conversation with someone like that to transition them over, to get them more comfortable with making a run at maybe a first property in that arena versus what they've been doing in residential?
Yeah, what's funny is that I'm terrified of residential flips. I'm terrified. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, I think residential single family houses, it's like one of the scariest investments you can possibly make. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I bought and flipped a lot of properties. The only time I've ever lost money was flipping single family houses. In real estate, I've only lost money flipping residential single family houses. And I've not lost money in commercial real estate. Just because I believe commercial real estate, if we take a look at it, let's just say with a single family house, let's just say you buy it for a decent price, maybe even a great price, and you renovate it and you're into it for a good number and you're ready to sell it. For whatever reason, it doesn't sell, the market skyrockets, whatever. Then you got to rent it and hope and pray that the rent covers the mortgage. With commercial real estate, like I had mentioned, I'm only buying something that cash flows day one. Okay. So I'm not losing money day one. Number two, or the first part was that I bought it at a great price per square foot or price per unit. So I know I have value add forced depreciation no matter what. I'm cash flowing day one, and I have to have a major value add component where I'm going to be able to increase the income substantially. So it's like, it is a win-win-win situation. And plus, dude, the amount of freaking write-offs tax-wise in commercial real estate, if you do not understand the tax codes around commercial real estate, what a cost segregation is and how to write off money, I have not paid taxes in a while and I don't plan to. Thank you, IRS. I appreciate the tax codes. And it's like, if you learn how to take advantage of it, I mean, this is why the rich don't pay taxes. I mean, it's really that, self-explanatory. If you learn how to play the game, it's a fantastic industry, because in fix and flips, you're going to pay a fortune in taxes. You better keep some of it so you can write it all off.
Wow. Do you ever come across properties that, like, we have a self-storage facility on the contract and it's 203 units, but it's vacant? Do you ever come across properties? I know you want something that cash flows immediately, but is a situation where we know the replacement cost is a lot more than this? Is it ever a situation like that you run into those type of opportunities?
100%. I'll be honest, right? One of the first investment deals I ever did, okay, we bought it at a bare break even, but it was such a good price per unit, it did not matter, right? I could not lose money buying at this price per unit, knowing what it could be worth in the future. It was impossible. I'll lose money day 1, day 2, day 10, month 1, month 20, whatever, right? But buying at that price per unit or price per square foot, that is just a steal. It's okay to lose money day one. I mean, you got to be prepared for it. Make sure you're in a good financial position to take the loss.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at a deal right now, South Jersey, trying to buy the deal for around $10 a square foot. Right. So it would be very difficult for me to lose money on this deal. I'm going to buy it vacant, most likely, but I have a contingency in there where they need to vacate. They own the property and they own and occupy the property. They're going to leave the property, and I have a decent term due diligence period, and I'm going to be able to market the property for rent in the meantime. So my goal is that by closing, I'm going to have a tenant already at $2 or $3 or $4 a square foot for the whole entire building. Right. Give them 4 or 5 or 6 months of TI, right? And let them do whatever the heck they want to do to the property. And I'm going to be able to, 30% cash on cash return day one, or at least maybe year one,
Wow.
So it's about what price you're paying, right? So in self-storage, I would buy a vacant self-storage facility if the price per square foot was fantastic or the price per unit was unbelievable, right? 100%.
Wow, guys. Packed full of information, man. I really appreciate Henry sharing all of this game. Check out his channel. You won't believe all the stuff you're going to be able to pick up from just his cold calling, man. If I had 10 of you, oh my God.
That's what I'm trying to do too, man. I'm trying to recruit and train. That's the whole thing. I'm trying to build a major team.
Most definitely. But before we get out of here, man, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just realize that this is a very long game. If you want to be rich, right, it's a get rich for sure, right? Grant Cardone talks about a get rich quick and a get rich for sure. There's a lot of BS get rich quick schemes out there. And I'm telling you, commercial real estate, if you're in the game long enough, it is a get rich for sure game if you stay in it long enough. So stay in it long enough, make enough phone calls, hang around with people like Ty and myself, and it's going to be really, really hard to not make money.
What did you say? Leads solve problems.
That's right. Lead solve all problems, baby.
Yeah. All right, man. I really appreciate Henry and guys that always like to say, we'll see you on the flip side.